And it might actually, once again, sort of undermine, neutralize that politicizing possibility or enabling kind of rupture that has been opened up. So that's, I like to throw that out as a question. What would happen if you insert the kind of Asian American studies, that particular knowledge formation, which is very much conducive to celebratory logic of liberal multiculturalism, what would happen to the inter-Asia cultural critique. One possibility that I like to also throw out here is that the kind of transnationalization that's also happening in the new formation of Asian American studies as well as Asian American cultural critique in the United States. And this is something that has been brought up as a refugee model or other sort of newly emergent critical formation of Asian American knowledge. But one of the ways in which this transnationalization of Asian American studies or Asian America, one very sort of productive critical perspective that's being brought up is when was Asian America starting to be formed? Asian America has not been formed or generated or produced in the United States when Asian immigrants immigrated into the United States, but instead when United States presence emerged in Asia itself. And that awareness, I think, will bring in all these different elements into the Asian American studies. You cannot talk about U.S. presence in Asia, that formative moment of Asian America in Asia, without looking at history of U.S. imperialism, violence, militarism, so on and so forth. And I think bringing that dimension of emergent critical moment of Asian American studies sort of interfaced with transformative knowledge that's been produced by inter-Asia cultural critique. I think that might actually be one way to really create this, this kind of undertaking as something really productive and also effectively politicizing. I'd like to also end with one other thought, which is that Asian America, as my colleague Lisa Lowe has been saying, Asian America is not a sort of pre-existing position or pre-existing category, but it is a provisional political category. Asian America is a collective entity as long as there is a sort of shared problem, as Candace talked about earlier, in terms of affinity. Asian America as a provisional project, political project, exists as long as there are political issues, issues that need to be addressed, collectively as Asian America. How would that kind of provisional political category, Asian America, how would that be, when that is inserted into inter-Asia context, what kind of new affinity, new kind of inter-Asia as another provisional political category would emerge is something that I'd like to end as a sort of point of possible discussion topic later.
Thank you very much. I have to apologize to Lisa because I mentioned in my introduction, I mentioned her education, her books, and the project. I forgot to mention her affiliation. Lisa is affiliated with the graduated with magna cum laude in English and American literature and language in, I don't want to mention the year. But then she went on to Princeton University and did her MA at Princeton and got her PhD in English from Princeton University. She is currently a professor at the Department of English Language and Literature, Yonsei University. Again, she also has a long list of publications, but let me just mention one book by her, that is Imperialism and Masculinity, Gender Formation in 19th Century Britain, which is written in Korean and published in Korea. Over the years, she has won many awards and fellowships, say, for example, Korean Research Foundation Faculty Abroad Grant, Korea Research Foundation Collaborative Research Grant, Korea Research Foundation Grant, Korea Research Foundation Junior Faculty Grant, and so on and so forth. Without much ado, let me give you Professor Park.
The last couple of days have been pretty tremendous and tremendously provocative and interesting, and I will actually keep my comments really short because you've heard enough of my voice already today. As you can see, actually I can't see, but you can see that the topic of this workshop has been about Asian American studies in Asia, and in some ways a lot of the discussions have asked questions about the nature of the work it is that most of us in some form or other are engaged in. You know, what is it that we do? And this process has taken, in some ways, a definition of Asian American studies. And one of the first panel yesterday, Manju Jaika asked about Asian American studies, what that means, how it can be understood in India as well as elsewhere. And in the very last panel, Kyung-Suk Shin has asked really challenging questions about what it means, what this profession means at all, and we've been discussing issues of institutional demarcations and limitations. Professor Eun-Jung Lee talked about how in Korea, Korean studies is done in Korean departments, and Korean American studies is done in English departments, and we don't actually talk to each other. And these kinds of sort of institutional issues have come out in many ways. In Miyake Hara has talked about how Asian American studies works in Japan. Oscar Campomanes talks about Philippine studies in the U.S. and in the Philippine Academy. Kim Tong talked about the Sinophone Malaysian perspective. We've had many different issues, and in part of this, of course, we've also talked about the definition of what it means to be Asian, possibility of Pan-Asian, possibility of individual national literatures, and in all of this, I think I've been thinking about what I can take home. You know, what happens when I get on an airplane tomorrow and I sit in front of my computer next week or next month, and I think,